Hey guys, I have been organizing a bit tonight. I've stocked up on inventory to like basically guarantee that I have inventory to get me through fourth quarter and into winter, like January and February, because I don't want to run short if sourcing becomes an issue, especially not having a vehicle. My second What Not show went really well. For a second What Not show. I did like 10 times as much as I did the first one. Got a couple more followers, so I consider that a win. But I'm gonna try something a little different because it's not the first time I've seen like another reseller say things like this, but especially like reading the comments, like I have to be doing something wrong. But my brain and the math make me feel like I'm not doing something wrong. So I'm going to experiment, because if I am wrong, then it 1,000% benefits me, because the idea is that you can basically make or net $50,000 in 20 hours of work per week. And if I can do that, then I can easily hit my goal of $100,000 net a year, which is the ultimate goal that I have in my head. I know 100,000 a year is not what it used to be, but I've learned to survive off of 20. So netting that amount would be absolutely life-changing for me. And even getting to the 50,000 mark would allow me to save and make some bigger decisions in my life. So, while my brain and everything I know of the last 16 years of my life says that it is absolutely not possible to net 50K doing just 20 hours of work a week, I'm going to do my best to see how close I can get, because apparently lots of people believe that you can. Now, I do discredit some of them because they say, like, me and my wife work 20 hours a week and make 50K, so it is possible. Well, then that's 40 hours a week. That's not 20 hours a week. And then there's instances like if you have outsourcing of any type, or you have a bookkeeper or whatever, those are more luxuries. And so the average reseller is going to be doing all of that labor themselves, which means it is possible to get to a point where maybe you could do 50K on 20 hours, even though I still think that's really cutting it kind of close. You have to have a big following, and you have to outsource some of your labor. You have to pay people, and then you can write that off. So then technically that's just something that comes out of your business as opposed to like hours of labor. But for the average person, they have to count that as labor. I think where I'm having the biggest problem making sense of it is that I know how many items you have to sell to hit 2,000 a week. Now, obviously, sometimes you're going to have $100, $200, $300, $400, $500 items, and that's great. But to get those type of items, you have to spend more hours sourcing, because you're having to work harder to find those items. You don't just find hundreds of items like that. So I typically, while I would like to get my average sell up to about $30 or $40, because I do like dealing with a lot of smaller items because they're just really easy to deal with, and they bring in sort of a different element to my store. I would like to get it up closer to $30 or $40, but I think overall, if you're just picking like your average picker and reseller, your average, sorry, I'm exhausted. I worked 8 hours at the auction house and I've been working all night, and I hand wash laundry because my washer is broken, and it's just been a day. But your average selling point would be about $20 an item. So at that $20 an item, you need to sell 100 items a week to hit the $2,000 a week, to hit the little over 108,000, basically 108,000 gross a year. And then after all your fees and any cost, whether it be the electricity you put into it or the gas that you put into it or anything, and obviously you can write certain things off, but that's a whole different element. But then you also have to take your taxes out. But a gross of about 100K will get you close to netting that 50K. And if you're smart with your taxes, you can net over that. So you have to sell, if your average, price point is $20, you have to sell 100 items a week, which means that you have to source at least 100 items a week. And the average sourcing that you can get done in, like, say, a Saturday morning from 7 to noon, which is 5 hours of labor right there, would be probably 40 to 50 items if you're really looking and trying to stock up and you're really doing your due diligence and listing in multiple categories. You get lucky sometimes and you get more than that. But even people who go to the bins, even when I've gone to the bins, my max is probably 40 or 50 items in a day. Other than the times I've gotten like a lot of tiny items. So just in sourcing alone, just to list those 100 items, because you have to list a minimum of 100 items if you're going to sell 100 items, because if you sell 100 items per week and you're listing less than 100 items per week, then at some point you're going to run out of inventory in your store. So you have to list at least 100 items a week, which means you have to source at least 100 items a week. Obviously, you can have backstock inventory or whatever, but mathematically, that's what you need to be getting near every week or building up to. And so that is probably going to take you about 10 hours of labor to source that number of items. Me at my level, where I have lots of experience, I average about 20 items listed per hour. And that's a mixture, because I do some clothing, some linens. I do literally like every category. Like I can't think of a category right now that I don't list in, and I have inventory of almost all of it. I think I only have one car part right now, so that one's not a big category. But other than that, I have stuff in every category. Every main category. So it takes me, if I average in the things that take almost no time, like media or photo slides or whatever, in with the things that take a little bit more time, where you have to take measurements and you have to describe any like issues or things that are wrong with the item, that type of thing. You have to fill in more blanks on eBay, that kind of thing. If I'm really focused, I can do 20 an hour. So say I need to list at least 100 an hour, which really you need to list more than that, because you're not going to sell, like, you have to have more inventory listed than what you hope to sell in a week. But we're just going to go with the $100 or 100 item thing here. So that's at least 5 hours of listing. So between sourcing and listing, we're at 15. And then you have to ship. And to hit that $2,000 a week mark, and you're selling 100 items, and you have to package and ship 100 items. And like tonight, I packaged 18 items in an hour. And I print my own labels. I have all my shipping stuff organized. Like, I know what I'm doing. And I did 18 in an hour. So let's just say an average of 20 for that too. So now you're at, 15 hours sourcing, at least 5 hours of listing, which really it needs to be more than that. Or 10 hours of sourcing, 10 hours of sourcing, 5 hours of listing. And again, it needs to be more than that, because you have to list more than you want to sell. And now you have 5 hours of packaging. Well, you're also going to have to do at least some amount of bookkeeping. Obviously, you can export, all the information from eBay, and some of the other platforms do it not as well. And I've lost my train of thought. You can export so your bookkeeping is low, but you're still gonna have to do something, because even if you export, you still, eBay doesn't know how much you spent on each item, but you need to keep track of that. So you need to keep track of what your investment on each item is. And then all of your expenses outside of, the shipping and the eBay fees aren't tracked. So you have to keep track of, your mileage or your gas or your, depending on how you store your items, like any other expenses, all your shipping supplies, any kind of cleaning supplies, any other kind of materials that you need. So you have to keep track of all of that for tax time, and just so you know how proficiently you're running your business. So there is some element of bookkeeping, so that's going to add another hour, probably a week, if you're doing it consistently. And then you have some amount of cleaning to do, and you can lump it all into one, whether it's sweeping and dusting your office and inventory room, or organizing your inventory, bringing it in, because once you bring that inventory in, you're going to have to, whether before or after you list it, you're going to have to organize it into its places. However you do that, that's time too. So between the organizing, cleaning and upkeeping of your spaces, and cleaning any items, like any clothing items, any linens, and any stuffed animals, and any hats, I steam clean. I think anything with fabric like that needs to be washed in some form or fashion, because there is lice and bed bugs and mites and all kinds of things, and you don't always know where these things come from. So I think it's the responsible thing to do. I know some people don't do it, but those things should be clean in some form or fashion. If you have any scuff marks on your shoes that you sell, you're going to have to magic erase those off. If you sell any kind of glassware, more than likely you're going to have to wipe those down, maybe even wash them, by hand. So that there is cleaning involved. I would say between the organizing of any new merchandise or inventory and any other cleaning that you need to do, that's probably another 2 hours in there. Because, if you're sourcing 100 items, which really you need to be doing more, a week, then once you get in listing them and you need to put them all where they need to go, so you have a system, because if you're selling 100 items a week, you're gonna need a system. And all those things are time consuming. That all adds up. I'm a very efficient person. Like, that's how my brain works. And I've worked in restaurant industries for 19 years. I worked in restaurants, like every position that you can have in a restaurant I've worked. And the way my brain works is anytime I go into any business, the first thing I want to do is make it more efficient. You know, that's like what I do. And so everything I even do with eBay is pretty highly efficient. It has gotten kind of complicated this year. And so some things are taking me longer. So right now I am working more than I normally would have to. Like, I'm pushing close to 50 hours a week. If I had a vehicle, if I was able to get the shelving that I needed to finish organizing my inventory, if there were just certain other elements, like I could probably shave at least 10, 15 hours off of that time. But I'm not going to come near netting $50,000 this year. So, you know, we're already pushing like 23 hours in this whole equation. And that's just the very bare minimum you need to do to list enough inventory so that you can sell enough items, so that you can hit that gross, so that you can make that net. And that's not including if you do any kind of marketing on social media or YouTube or anything. That is also hours that you are putting in there, because you would not have the sales that you have if you're not putting those hours into marketing on social media or marketing on YouTube, or however you do that, like designing your business cards or passing out your business cards or whatever you're doing. That is still all time that you're investing in your business. And to really hit that number, those are the type of things that you have to do. So being already sort of all lumped together somewhere around, let's just say 25 hours. And that's the bare minimum, just so you can sell the 100 items. And that's if you're pushing things quickly enough, because just because you list 100 items a week doesn't mean that you're going to sell 100 items a week. You know, like, in reality, if you're wanting to sell 100 items a week, you're going to need to be listing more than that, which means it's going to take more listing hours and it's going to take more sourcing hours. So, yeah. We're going to see how it turns out. I'm going to give myself 25 hours a week, because I am in I can't do postal pickups. I have one guy who shows up, an older gentleman who's very nice, and he shows up Mondays and Wednesdays. There's another younger guy who just drives right down my entire street and doesn't deliver anybody's mail. And I've watched him, like, I've scheduled pickups and just watched him, like, drive by. And one thing I don't want to do really is report the post guy, because, like, I feel like I don't want my stuff broken, and I'm not so sure they're in a position to have any accountability right now. So I am just driving. Well, I'm not driving. I'm taking a Lyft to the post office to bring my packages there. So my shipping takes a little bit longer. You know, packaging I can do close to 20 an hour. But on average, the taking it to the post office is a solid, like, 20-minute round trip, if not a little bit more, depending on how the Lyft goes. So that's going to add an hour. I do have very limited space right now, and it's very hard to be organized in a super efficient way. I still manage it because I know what I'm doing, but I'm going to give myself a little leeway on that one. And then because I don't have a car, it is harder to source which means I am limited on the items a little bit more. I basically have online auctions I can bid on, or 2 close thrift stores, because the yard sale season is practically ended now that it's freezing outside. And by the way, our Goodwills are so ridiculously overpriced. Like, I went into one recently, and the used neckties, like, not good brands, like Josh A. Banks, but not like Ralph Lauren or, anything of any real substance. It's not like a Versace or anything. It's just the Josh A. Banks necktie. There were several of them priced for $12.99. And I'm like, are you serious? This is like a used 1990s necktie that isn't even really quality. And y'all have got to be kidding. Most of their shoes now, there's a very few shoes that are under $15. And the area that I live in is pretty overrun with resellers and antique dealers. We have a lot of antique dealers still in the area. So, yeah, it's tough at the thrift stores. But yeah, so I'm giving myself a little more than 20 hours because I don't even feel comfortable attempting to do 20 hours. Like, I would feel like I was not doing my job correctly. Like, I would have to not put descriptions into my listings. I would have to not pay as close attention to how I am packaging items, like, I feel like the quality of things would go down. And so, yeah, I'm not comfortable with that. So I am going to give myself the 25 hours a week. And theoretically, especially since I already have over 1,500 items in my store, and I have top seller rating, so I have the blue check mark, and I have a low defect rate, and I have 100% shipment rate. I have all the things you need to have good sales. I have a very wide variety of inventory. I have, short tail, long tail, small, big, media, clothing, linens, everything, electronics, knickknacks, ephemera. I mean, literally, like, everything. With all of that in place already, if this is possible, then those 25 hours of me really focusing and just doing what I do consistently, 25 hours a week, by the end of the month, my sales should be hitting near that 2,000 gross mark. I mean, that would be amazing. Like, especially close to Christmas, because I am broke. It's been a tough year. It's been a really fucking tough year. But yeah. So I hope my brain is incredibly wrong. I hope the math is wrong. Like, I hope I find some way in how I have somehow managed to be incredibly inexperienced in all my experience. Because it would just be amazing to start grossing $2,000 a week just by doing 25 hours a week. Especially that I'm working like 30 to 40 hours at the auction house right now. So yeah, that is what is coming up. I am going to continue to post little shorts about whatnot as I'm building that. And if I get I've gotten a lot more inventory in that I haven't showed you guys, but I don't have time. I don't have time. So I'm gonna get that organized. I'm hoping next week I can finally get the remaining shelving that I need, so I can get really good and organized, everything put where I want it. And if I come across anything amazing, I will do like a haul video. Otherwise, I'm going to just be updating on how it's going, like what kind of increases I'm seeing, how I'm spending those 3.5-ish hours a day. And if it's paying off. I do hope I'm wrong. I will see you guys probably in a couple days. I do have another Whatnot show Thursday night at 9 p.m. I'm trying to do like a evening show on Sundays, a little bit later night show on Thursdays, and then in probably 2 to 3 weeks I'm going to work in an early morning show so that I can kind of hit all 3 time periods. But yeah, I'll update you guys as soon as I can. I hope you guys have a good Halloween, and thank you.